When working inside of Marvelous Designer, it's a good practice to start with something that has been proven by real life. By that, I mean to use patterns that were created by other people, by artists and by tailors. And inside of Marvelous, there are a couple of ways to do that. The first one is to use a single plane. It's a simple plane created by polygonal tool, and we first of all need to assign a new fabric to it. So I'm going to call this one pattern, and it has already been assigned, but I'm going to do it anyway. And in here we need to go into the texture, click this little button and choose the image that we want to work with. As you can see, the image is automatically tiled, and there are a couple of ways to work with that. So if we click, nothing really happens because we're moving the pattern itself, the geometry. But if we go all the way up, we have a few tools to work with the texture. So this one is handy. It hides all the texture as well as the colors on the patterns. So if we click that, everything is transparent, which is quite useful sometimes. I find this feature to be quite nice to see everything a little bit more clearer. But we need to bring this back so we can see the texture. And another two tools right next to it is for stickers. At least I call them stickers. I'm going to get back to this at the end of the video, but the one that we want to use in this particular case is this one. So once we click that, we see this little gizmo in the corner of the screen. One thing to be aware of is that there's also a line that appeared on this texture, on this piece of fabric. So if we click on this pattern, this little tool is now more aggressive. It's highlighted, and if we start to rotate, the texture changes the angle. But the problem with that is that we're not rotating the texture itself. We're actually rotating the grain on the fabric. If we scroll down here into the fabric properties, there's this little line saying grain direction. So if we use this tool, you can see that the grain direction angle changes, and grain direction is the direction of the threads, and by default it's set to 0, which means that the threads are going vertically and horizontally. Weft is horizontal and warp is vertical. This is basically how most of the fabrics are created, how they are cut out. And so we don't really want to use this tool because the grain direction actually changes the physical behavior of the pattern. Instead, we need to go here. So again, if we deselect the pattern, we need to click it, and in here we can rotate the texture, and as you can see, the grain direction stays where it was, which is 0. If we hold Shift, just like in most programs, the snapping activates, and it's by probably 45 degrees or something like that. And there are a few basic tools in here. So there's a scale vertical, scale horizontal, and then there's scale both ways to make it uniform. So this is very much how you would expect those things to behave, this texture to work. And to apply this to a more practical scenario, when we start on the character, or if we continue working with the character, we would need to bring this probably somewhere close to the avatar, so we can assign the right scale to the texture. This is a good example where we need to use the order option, because this pattern lies on top of everything, and so if we wanted to click something that is underneath, we simply wouldn't be able to, and nothing would help. Even going to the fabric properties and changing the opacity, even though we can see everything behind it, we can't really click. So we need to right click the pattern and send it to back. Now everything is lying on top of this fabric, and it's no problem to select these patterns. But getting back to the task before us, now that we have this pattern, we simply need to decide just how big this pattern has to be, so we can create something that is the right size to the avatar. So again, click in this little tool, click on the pattern, and then scale it uniformly. And it probably would be something like that. We can always move those things, those other patterns out of the way, so we don't get distracted. And in the fabric properties, we can change the opacity and see a little bit clearer. This probably would be the good size for us to start on the pattern.
If you enjoy this content or find it useful, please consider supporting me by buying me a cup of coffee via the link in the description.
And one thing not to forget, those very same tools for manipulating the texture are available in 3D. They are located above the 3D window and they look exactly the same. So if we select this tool and we click on the pattern, we can do those manipulations in 3D. Alternatively, we can use a different feature to do the exact same procedure. What we need to do is we need to right click on the canvas and then choose add background image. Everything, all the patterns that we had, everything that we've created in terms of clothing has disappeared, and all we have is the avatar, the outline of the avatar. And with that, we also have this little window that has a few options. The first thing we need to do is we need to press this little folder and select the right image, and an image appears in front of us, and we simply click on this plane and we can move it around. Now, for the options in here, they are very much self-explanatory. There's nothing special about them. The only downside, I would say, to this window is that it doesn't have any sliders. So what I mean by that is that if we wanted to scale this plane, we would need to set the percentage manually. So we need to go in here and type it in, and this is not very useful, to be honest. It would have been much easier if there was not easier, but it would have been much more precise way of scaling things if there was a little slider, so we can slide it, and immediately in real time, we can see how this pattern looks. But this still works most of the time. It doesn't. This pattern doesn't really have to align perfectly to the avatar. It has to be something close enough, and we can scale it later. So in this case, I would set something close to 130%. Rotation wise, I don't really need to rotate anything here, and opacity is set to 50, which is good enough. This is perfect. I don't want it to be any brighter or any more transparent than what it is. If we're satisfied with all those things, we simply click OK. And now what happens is that this image is flattened. It now is a part of the background, so we can't really do anything. We can't select it. We can't, if we go with it into the texture tool, we can't really do anything here. So it literally is just a part of the background. And if we want to modify this, if we want to move this, if we want to scale it and change the size and all of those things, all we need to do is right click on the canvas, choose edit background image, and then we get to modify this image. If we traced everything, we traced the pattern and did all the modifications and all those things. And by the way, if we are tracing something, unless we are moving points, when we use the edit pattern, the surface is going to be completely solid color. We can't really see anything behind it. It doesn't really matter whether we're using background image or plane. The patterns are going to be solid. Again, if we choose edit pattern, the color becomes slightly transparent. But to work with that, to work with tracing things, we simply need to add some opacity to the fabric itself. So in this case, I'm using my hoodie material, and in the properties, I will simply change the opacity to something like 40, and then I can do whatever I want with the pattern, and I will always be able to see what is happening underneath. So if I'm done with this, if I'm happy with the tracing, all I need to do to remove this background image is right click on the canvas, add background image, and in here we need to press reset. Clicking that will remove the image from the background. And the last thing to mention is the sticker tool. If we click this icon, we get to choose some pictures. I'm going to go with this one, and don't ask me why I have this picture on my desktop. It's a good anatomy reference, that's why. So in here, when we click on the pattern, and that's how the tool works. We have to click it on a pattern because it's a sticker. It can be applied to a canvas. So once we click that, we can either change the dimensions of the texture or of the image. We can change the position. We can do a lot of things basically, but let's just click OK. And now we have that. We can use this other tool right next to it. So if we click this one, transform graphic, and that's how it's called, graphic, not sticker, but I'm going to call it sticker anyway because it's precisely what it is. And so if we use this tool, we can move this thing around, and if we click that, we have a new gizmo, and it works exactly the same way as the texture tool. We can rotate. In this case, we rotate the whole sticker, not just the texture within it. We can scale and do other things. This is not to be used as a tracing tool, not something to add your patterns to. This is simply something to add to the clothing itself. If we have some kind of badges, if we have some kind of logos and those kind of things, we can use this tool, this graphic or stickers. And for everything else, for tracing, for adding patterns, we should use the tools inside of the fabric properties, which is here.